Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the AfghanEye podcast. Ramadan Mubarak. We have a special edition of our show today due to Ramadan and current corona pandemic and its effect on people in Afghanistan. We have a guest today. With us is Shaira Karimi, who is an Afghan student at the King's College in London, Kingston College, Kingston University in London, and she's studying global politics and she's focusing on Afghanistan. And we will be discussing current situation in Afghanistan because there is a recent report saying that 7 million children in Afghanistan are facing starvation. So first of all, Shaira Karimi, welcome to the AfghanEye podcast.
Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you for having me.
As I understand, you have recently written a essay about internally displaced people in Afghanistan. Could you please maybe tell us more about your personal investigation and research in this field, and maybe so that our audience can understand what a situation like a lockdown and a total shutdown of economy in Afghanistan means for the most vulnerable people?
Especially given that it's Ramadan.
Yes, please. Very tough, loaded question, but...
Thanks. I think, first of all, we need to understand what internally displaced persons are. These are the group of people who are forced to leave their habitual residencies or homes in order to avoid certain disasters, such as human-made or natural-made disasters, war, poverty, and human rights abuses, etc. And I'm going to go through them later on. Currently we have around almost 17 million of internally displaced people in Afghanistan, and it's as a result of the long-term armed conflict and natural disasters, as I've mentioned, human rights violations and abuses, and displacement is like has become a only way of survival strategy for many years for many Afghans.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
How? What's the exact number of the internally displaced people?
It's around 17 million.
So of the 30, estimately 37 million people in Afghanistan, 17 are actually displaced.
Yes, actually displaced people, and they have, and it's not only about the previously mentioned factors, and it can be intertribal type of conflicts, ethnic and lack of resources, etc. And these are the issues that forces many people to leave their villages and cities and travel around the country to find a better living conditions.
Given that we've got such a large number of internally displaced people and a lack of healthcare infrastructure or infrastructure in general, what has the response of the government sort of been thus far to sort of, in particular, help the internally displaced people?
I haven't come across any specific report or anything on from the Afghan government, but I did read some reports from the UNICEF. There are funds dedicated by various organizations and countries to help with the crisis of COVID-19 and in regards to prevention, detection, and the treatment of the virus. For example, World Bank will provide about $100.4 million, and there will be like additional 223.
I think the total figure was $540 million US, right?
Something like that. I mean, US will be US promised 18 million, around 18 million. So these are like huge amounts to deal with the problem, if distributed efficiently, of course. UNHCR is providing healthcare equipment for personal workers who are working in front lines and borders, for example.
Yes.
And also, I did read that UNICEF is providing assistance to displaced people, such as practicing like hygiene type of issues and providing information in regards to the disease itself, as many people in the country are not aware of what COVID-19 is and how vulnerable someone can be to it, or how fast it spreads and why these precautions are needed to be taken. I haven't read anything about the Afghan government. There has been promises, but promises.
Quick question. You've written in your report about internally displaced people. As I understand, you have also seen some IDP camps in Afghanistan. Is that correct?
Yes, when I went in 2015, I visited Afghanistan, and I did saw some in outskirts of Kabul, living in tents and in really harsh conditions. So yes.
And when you visited those camps, basically when we talk about internally displaced people in Afghanistan, maybe it's good to paint a picture of Afghanistan's economy to make our audience understand what actually is the effect of a lockdown for like internally displaced people. So just quickly, in Afghanistan, like a vast majority of the people who live in rural Afghanistan, they live in areas
74%.
Yes.
The population live in rural areas, according to the UN.
And Afghanistan is not an industrialized country, so most people rely on manual labor and agriculture to earn a living. So when you have a conflict or a disaster, or when there are hostilities and these people are forced to move from their native regions to another areas, it basically means that people who are not actually able to provide for themselves, these people are forced to go live in these camps, like in the outskirts of Kabul. So just if you're not there, if you use your imagination, what is the effect of a lockdown when people can't go buy anything in the streets? The bazaars are closed, the shops are closed, most aid agencies have limited capacities. So I would say that the most affected people are the IDPs in this current situation. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, we do need like humanitarian aid for IDPs, not only at this particular time when we are facing this pandemic, but also in general, as displaced people are, as you said, very quite vulnerable people in Afghanistan. Naturally, they're living below the poverty line and in overcrowded camps. They're often facing like life-threatening circumstances on daily basis, and they have no access to food, to clean water, to sanitation, to healthcare, and this virus that we have, the coronavirus, makes the situation even more vulnerable and many different ways. So so I think that the Afghan government and international communities, they have to do a lot more if they want to help and they want to prevent the disease to be spread amongst the displaced communities.
So I mean, you mentioned food, food, clear, sanitation, and that sort of thing, as being some of the basic necessities that IDPs lack. But are there any other sort of factors, sort of more rooted in the political situation that sort of threaten or that affect IDPs disproportionately compared to other people?
Definitely. I mean, the risk might be armed attacks, abuses, and they can be family separations, sexual abuses, gender-based violences. It can be the privation of land. It can be displacement because of the natural disasters, for example, and because of those disasters they might lose their properties and homes, and they also the IDP communities, they suffer a lot of stigmas and discriminations and harassments, not only from the people inside the communities themselves. They have issues with each other, also from the outside people,
and if we just depict a picture of how it is like for people in Kabul, a little maybe a historical background. Kabul as a city before the start of the war, like 42 years ago, had a population of around maybe 500-600 people. And
600,000.
Yeah, sorry, 600,000. Sorry, I'm fasting, so I'm not really sharp today. But 600,000 people or 700,000 people in a city like Kabul was already overcrowded. I remember when I was a child in Afghanistan, the sanitation, the infrastructure, a lot of things were not developed. So now in Afghanistan, according to estimates, the city of Kabul has about 7 million inhabitants. Okay, so if you see such a large influx of people from rural Afghanistan to Kabul, obviously the city of Kabul is constantly in a state of crisis due to overpopulation, and because the infrastructure is not developed. Then we have these IDP camps in the outskirts of the city. Okay, so as you described, they are very vulnerable. They have all these problems, threats. There's lack of, resources and sanitation. And what most people outside of Afghanistan maybe don't realize is that in Kabul, in the city, all over the place, you see a lot of people who are doing manual labor, or they are beggars sometimes. And these people are usually IDPs. They're displaced from rural parts of the country.